Hello? Hello everybody! As usual, I'm hoping my technology is working. As usual, I've had a few technical difficulties, so give me a thumbs up or a hello if you can see this and if you can hear this. Hey Katie, how are you? So hi! We are gonna do an office tour today. It's very exciting. I have an able-bodied assistant here who's gonna help me with the tour. So here's the plan. Here's the plan of approach. We will chatter for a bit. That's me chattering. And then we're gonna do an office tour for about 15-20 minutes. Hey Lisa. And then we're going to do a regular Q&A, like normal lives. My phone isn't great on battery right now, so I'm hoping it makes it through the whole thing, but if there are technical difficulties, you know, it's me. There's always technical difficulties. Hey, Frankie. So the idea is if you could save your questions until after I've finished the tour. And here's another idea. If, as I am doing the tour, there's something in the office that you really want to see more of, that you really want me to get close in on and talk about a little bit more, just leave a comment in the video, and when I'm going back through the comments, I'll flag that section, and then later on I can do a more focused, like, talk about that shelf or my teacup collection or whatever it is that you want to see more of. So hopefully that makes sense. So to rehash, we're going to do a quick walkthrough of the office. If you have any questions specifically for the normal Q&A, if you could save those until I sit back down again and you see me like this again. And if you have any specific questions about sections of the office, just leave them as we're gonna do the tour. So there's about 24 of you. Hi everybody. And I think we're just gonna start the office tour. So here we go. I'm gonna flip it. It will be strange for a second and then all will be well. All right, here we go. So we're gonna start by going into my bigger section of the office because this section is much funner and much cuter and much prettier. So we'll start with the business end of the office. So here it is. Look at all of the space I have. I'm so excited about this. The new office is about twice the size of my old office. So over here in this section, this is my one piece of antique furniture that I inherited from my great-grandmother. It's a escritoire, or a secretary desk. And it's where I keep all of my swag, like all of the bookmarks and stuff like that I send to you guys when you win goodie boxes or when you come and see me in person. And here is the original poster for Soulless that was at BEA in 2009 when the book came out. Lots of orchids because they're the only plant that I can keep alive. And here is my storage closet with all of my hat boxes and all of my office supplies and shipping supplies and all that sort of thing. This cool thing is a stencil. I didn't do the art myself, sorry. This is my new display case for the books. I mean, it's the same old display case, but this one, I changed it so it's not just packed full of books. It just has one sample of each book, and I've chosen some of the different covers. So here's the original Soulless cover, but this is on I think the Swedish edition, and like here are the omnibuses and stuff. So that's all of my books, my big books display case. This is my new writer zone, so I'm hoping I can have some of my local writer friends come over and we can write together. I'm a really social writer, so I really love writing with people, so I'm very excited to set up a section of the office that's specifically for that. Here are just a bunch of my old favorite books. These are all of my reference books, so these are primary source material and then my own books that I need to look at a lot. And these are the ones that like have flags and notes and everything in them. So these are just books I use constantly. This is Kelly's desk, or the guest desk. It's also the desk that I use when I'm copy editing. Mostly I stand up to write, but I also like to sit down for some stages. So copy editing, I tend to have lots of papers spread out around me, and I need to reference things all the time. So that's that desk. And then this is my regular work desk. So this is me usually typing. That is how I work. My laptop sits here. I mostly work off of the big main monitor, and I stand. I mean, I have a little seat if I get super lazy, but mostly I just stand and type. So that's where the magic happens. And now we can go into my favorite room. So this is the reason I really rented this space. Oh, costuming, of course. So this is where we started, and this is my sunny tea room. I'm super excited about it. This is my little tea zone, an area for making tea. As you can see, more stencils. And yeah, it has great light, which you probably can't see. And then over here I have my teacup collection and my surrogate book nook. So I couldn't do a great big huge book nook like last time. So I just did a little kind of cute reading area over here. And then this is where I'm going to do most of my videoing now because the light is great and I set up pretty backdrop for you guys. And I'm going to sit back down and we'll get on to the Q&A section.
So low battery, 20%.
Okay. All right, so my phone is telling me that I have low battery. So if you'll give me a moment, I'm going to plug it in. Hopefully it won't mess up the image too much. Okay. Hi. Katie says, plug your phone in. The problem with plugging in a phone when you're doing a live is sometimes it messes up the visual. And sometimes it messes up me when I'm trying to read your comments. It's just the way phones are. Thank you so much. Everyone's saying that they like The Office, and yes, you see I changed. For those of you who've been on the Office tour before, you can see that I changed my aesthetic a little bit. I like to think of it as sort of the San Andreas shifters kind of leaking into my office. So the office, the old one was really Victorian, really floofy, and this one is a little bit more beachy, a little bit more California. And that was kind of intentional. I feel like I've evolved as a writer, and so my office space is also evolved. But yeah, still very girly, still very me. I can't get away from it, I'm sorry. So, sitting back down again, what kind of questions do you have? Do you guys have questions about the office, about writing? I figure since you got a tour of my workspace, maybe we could talk more businessy, worky, crafty stuff today. But in general, you know, you can ask me any questions you have. Yeah, Katie, one of the reasons I chose it is because of its openness and sunniness. And the blue walls and carpet and stuff came with the office, and so I decided not to fight it. So that's, hey Chris, you found me, yes, found me on the page. I'm so glad you guys like my setup. I have to say, I was really torn when everything went down with my last space. They raised my rent. It was beyond what I could afford, and they weren't really willing to be accommodating. And so I basically had to scramble to find new digs really quickly. And I landed here, and I just love it. I'm really, really happy with it. Katie says that when they move, that she goes through stages, or they go through stages where we're throwing everything to a box. And yeah, that I am super organized about moving. So part of the panic with my old office and leaving it was like how organized I had to be, because I'm just kind of psycho organized. Looks like we had a question there. Ooh. Katie wants to know if I stick to a specific regime or if I'm a chaotic mover. Back on the Muzz. So I have a regime. I haven't had to move that often. But but yeah, so I'm very organized. I have lots of lists and lots of like printouted labels to go in the boxes with everything. Like I'm just panicked about losing anything and not being able to find anything on the other side. Lauren wants to know what else I do to stay limber while writing all day. That's a great question, Lauren, because it's rough. I've talked about it before. When I have long stretches of writing, like when I'm on writing retreat, I wear wrist braces, actually. I wear these old, they're called Royce wrist braces. They're not made anymore, but I found something similar. And it just reminds me to hold my hands in the right position. I'd actually really love to get into dictation more. I know the author Kevin J. Anderson hikes and dictates at the same time. I'm a little embarrassed talking to myself. I even find this a little strange, just talking to an empty room, even though I'm talking to all of you. So dictation has been a little hard for me to pick up. Also, the software so far isn't awesome for Macintosh computers, which is, I have an Apple, so Apple Mac. So I struggle with dictation. That would be another way. What else do I do? I tend to shift around. So I'm standing at the desk and I shift a lot. I'm just naturally, obviously, kind of a slightly hyper person. Shocked. I know, you guys are all surprised. But I can get into positions where I slouch accidentally or I lean accidentally and I don't even realize I'm doing it, and then my body starts to hurt after. So I like to try to remember to take breaks and just not do huge stretches of writing. It's rough because that's when I'm most productive. But my body isn't what it used to be, and it doesn't bounce back the way it once did. Tina wants to know how I stay focused while writing with other people. Well, one of the things when you co-write or when you're writing with other people, like sitting at the table and stuff with you, is you have to pick the right people. Some people like to chat. But I have a couple of writer friends who are super focused writers, and that actually is what helps me. They have pretty busy lives, and they only have a short amount of time to write in, so all they want to do is write. So we get together at a cafe, or hopefully here in the office, and they don't want to talk. Nothing. There's no hello. There's no looking up and consulting each other with questions about the text. It's just 3 or 4 of us sitting around a table and typing. And just that act of other people being creative around me and typing around me is what helps me write. And most of the writing retreats I go on are similar. Now, some people don't want to write. They just want to sit at a cafe or sit at a table and chat with each other. And I just don't meet up with those people frequently, or I meet up with them for lunch to talk and eat and not for write. They're just like not writing companions. So I guess the key is to pick the right people to write with if you're the type of person who likes to write that way. Not everybody likes to do that. I just happen to be somebody who does. Amber wants to know if it feels different writing here in the new office, and does the environment change my mindset? Definitely yes. I'm influenced by what's around me. So I imagine that, say for example, writing, I haven't had any big writing sessions yet in the new space. The last month of the year I often am not writing at all. I'm taking a break, and I'm also doing a lot of like business and finance stuff, getting ready for taxes and everything. But I imagine that it's going to be really easy to write, say, San Andreas stuff or Fifth Gender stuff or Tinker Stars or what have you here. And it's going to be a little bit harder to write my Parasolver stuff just because the energy is different. I could be on crack, but that's my feeling. I find that often where I am, the setting at least influence my writing. So if I'm in the mountains or if it's really cold, I'm kind of inclined towards writing a story that's set in the wintertime. Or like if I'm on writing retreat, it's really easy for me to write like these away house party books, which I keep writing. So Poison or Protect, for example, was kind of about a house party. The next Delightfully Deadly book, which is Defy or Defend, for those of you who missed that announcement, that's the title, which is Dimity's book. That one is also kind of an away house party book. And so, and that's often because they're being written on retreats. So I'm kind of away at a quasi house party. So yeah, definitely where I am and my setting influences what I write in ways that sometimes I'm not even aware of. Piper wants to know Pepper says that before she moves, she likes to do a massive purge, and that she thinks I purged as well, and it wasn't hard for me. So yes, I did, and yes, I do. So every time I move, I like to get rid of stuff. Donating to Goodwill. I sold some like special editions and stuff to you guys on my Gumroad account. I even did an auction on eBay, which I've never done before. And yeah, I like to purge. No, it is not hard. I get rid of stuff really easily. 90% of the time. There are a few things that I struggle to get rid of, but I actually really, really like getting rid of things. I don't like objects. I try not to hold on to objects. So the act of letting go of objects and things and stuff for me is actually really cathartic, and I really enjoy it, and I do it regularly. So the AB and I have a big box next to our door in our apartment, and that is the box of things that are going to go to Goodwill, and it's constantly being filled, and then we take a trip, and then it's filled again, and then we take a trip. And so yeah, it wasn't hard at all. I don't find purging hard of stuff. Ty wants to know if I'm writing now or editing. I'm editing. So Defy or Defend just came back from my copy editor, Shelly Adina, who some of you know as an author. And so I am copy editing that, and then it goes on to my proof editor, Flo. And Flo will take a double check and make sure that any fixes I made, I didn't mess anything up again. And Flo will add some of the commas back in that Shelly took out. And there will always be this little back and forth between my proof editor and my copy editor. But that's what stories are about. That's grammar for you. It's a flexible thing, grammar. So, and then Defy or Defend goes into, like, it's in production. So right now I'm editing that. I'm putting Meet Cute out and getting the assets uploaded for that. I'm working on the metadata and the descriptions of all of my books and trying to get those all fixed up and tidied. Then working on price matching all of my books on all my different platforms. So all the nitty gritty of like the behind the scenes author work is going on this month, as well as getting all my taxes together and finances. Meanwhile, yes, I'm editing. So I always am usually working on a book of some kind in some way, even if I'm not actually writing anything fresh. And the idea is that I'm using December to kind of clear my palette and give my creative brain a bit of a rest. It tends to work better if I neglect it for a while. Then it starts to get creative and dreams start waking me up. I know that's a weird way to put it, but my creative side starts to get angsty if I don't access it for a while. So, and I like that. I like the sensation of wanting to write something new. So I'm letting it sit for a bit. And then January kicks in and I will start writing a bunch. I will start writing the Enforcer Enigma in January. So that is the plan. Chris wants to know if it took me a long time to adjust to the new place or if you feel like I'm at home. It takes me a long time. And I love this place and I'm in love with it and I love being here, but I don't think it's home just yet. I don't think I've spent enough time in it. And it still smells like the cleaning products that they use to clean the carpet. So it doesn't like smell like me yet, for lack of a better term, which means tea. It doesn't smell like tea. So I'm not quite here. It's not quite home. But that's also kind of nice because every time I walk in the door, I'm like, oh, look at my beautiful office. Like, isn't it so great that I get to be here? Doc says that the next office move should be inside an airship. Oh, wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't it be great to have a real airship? And I could like come to events and I could come around and I could visit you guys in all of the different bookstores and stuff like that and have my office with me and just go back to my dirigible and write. That would be the best thing ever. Wishes were horses. Megan wants to know if I do anything else while I'm writing, if I listen to music or anything like that. No. So I was not professional, but I was a dancer for a very, very long time. So I did like contemporary jazz and even a little ballet way back. And so all the way up through college I did dance. And then I was a social dancer for a really long time. Swing, waltzing, salsa, all that sort of thing. So if music is playing, I tend to want to dance. and I want to dance too much to do writing. So like I find myself like bopping around at my desk, and then suddenly I'm twirling around the room and I'm not writing. So I am one of those authors who can't listen to music when I write. Ambient noise is great. I write really well if I'm in a coffee shop or something like that, which I know some people can't do at all, but actually that's great for me. But not, and even if there's ambient noise and like music, like the coffee shop's playing music or something, that's all right. But yeah, I can't really write if I'm playing music I like, even classical often. Although I will occasionally play like Liszt or something to just get myself out of my head. Katie wants to know if I do anything to make my place smell right. I think if I had like baked goods in here regularly, I think it's just gonna take a little time because it's so cold right now. I have to keep it all shut up. And as soon as summer rolls around, I'll be able to have the doors open and then get some fresh air and some air movement. Doors, it just has one big sliding glass window door thing out to the open air. And once that happens, it just takes a little time. You just gotta live in a space before it has the right smell. Ty wants an all-expense-paid trip to the Scottish moors to write Sid Haig's novella. Yes, absolutely. That's what we need to do. I need to go back to Scotland immediately. I had so much fun there, and I loved it. Katie says that I can't wait for Defy or Defend. I am excited about that book. I've talked about the fact that with my books, I go through this sort of phase where as I'm writing it, I love it and I hate it, and then after I've written it, I love it and I hate it. So and every time I hand a book in to an editor, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years, 28 books, however many it is. It does not matter, you guys. Every time I hand into an editor, I'm terrified, and I think they're going to hate it. It doesn't matter if it's an editor for a New York publishing house, or if it's an editor that I've paid to do the developmental edit, like Sue. I'm always terrified that they'll hate it. So I handed Defy or Defend in to Shelley, and I was like, she's going to hate it, but it doesn't matter because she's a copy editor, but she's going to hate it, and she's a great author, and I respect her opinion, so I was still terrified, and she gave it back to me, and she totally loved it. Whew, big relief. So right now, Defy or Defend and I are in a very good place. I love that book right now. I think it's great right now. We'll see. I'll hand it into the next editor, be terrified again, and then I'll publish it, and I'll be terrified. But right now, I'm really happy with it. It isn't as romancy as some of the other novellas, at least I don't think it is. It's a lot more like a vignette, like an Alexia vignette or something. It's very comedic. So I hope you guys will like it. Don't worry, there is a little romance. Like Dimity has to get her man, of course, but it's really cute. Dick, don't worry about it. If you, hopefully somebody has shared this over to the Parasol Protectorate Facebook group. If not, please do. And yeah, don't worry if you're tuning in a little late. You can always come back and rewatch the video, or I will post it to my YouTube people. Anybody who's on YouTube watching it right now, hi. Like I said, as you watch the tour, leave a comment if you want to see more of anything, and I'll do special extra bits in the future. Reading through your comments. Anyone else have questions about writing or the writing process? Ty says ADHD makes him go crazy when there's too much ambient noise. I totally understand. I just happen to be one of those people who finds ambient noise productive, which is a good thing. It should mean that as a writer, I should be able to write like all over the place. And I think I probably could train myself to do it, but my lifestyle means that I don't have to do that, so I haven't. Everybody seems to like the new office. Thank you all. Amanda wants to know if it was hard to pare down stuff before the move. Well, not really, partly because I had you. So, like, normally it would be really, one of the things I would be challenged to get rid of is like first editions of books, because they mean something to me, because it's the first time my book was in that language or with that cover or whatever. So yes, that would be very hard for me to get rid of. But in this particular instance, I basically just took a chance and said, hey, I'm just going to post this stuff for sale. I'm going to make goodie boxes with this stuff for future Cheer Up giveaways. So it was a lot easier to get rid of it because I know it was going to someone who would really value it and really love it, probably more than I do. Because there is a thing with me in my books where I'm just like, oh, it's just a book. Like, it's just a book I wrote. It's not a big deal. And so, like, I'm there's that warring part of me it's really hard for me to articulate, but that wants to keep the thing because it represents a moment of time and experience and achievement for me. But it's also kind of like, yeah, but the thing is, it's just a book. Like, I can write books. I write books all the time. Whereas you guys, it's like not just a thing. It's the first of a thing that is a reader experience for you. So in a way, I think you guys almost value it more than I do. So yeah, so getting rid of the stuff like that was less difficult than it could have been, which is good. And it's good to know I can do that, and I can do it again in the future. Kevin wants to know if the next Delightfully Deadly book has a lot of action. Not a lot. Sorry. There's a bit of action, but it's mostly like me giving a makeover to a vampire hive, or Tiffany giving a makeover to a vampire hive and having a fantastic time. So there is action, but it's re-wallpapering and stuff like that. There aren't any like major fight sequences like there would be in a Custard Protocol book. Though as I dial back with the series, for the moment, the novellas are probably going to get more action-y because I'm going to have to get that out of my system some other way. So you'll probably see a bit more action in some of the novellas as a side effect. I think you guys will love Dimity in action. For what it's worth, is great. She's good at her job and she's just ridiculous about it, and I have great affection for her, and I think that comes across on the page because she is based on my best friend. So, oh my gosh, we have a new watcher. Hi, CQ. That's awesome. Hi, welcome to the great craziness of the live. I'm sorry I don't have a British accent. I know a lot of people expect that. It's my mother's accent that you hear in your head. Bria wants to know if I've tried compression gloves at all. I actually don't find compression effective. I know Ty does, but that does not help me. And it has to do with the fact that my problems, we're talking about wearing braces to type with, which I do when I'm doing long stretches of typing, and we're talking hours and hours of typing. It has to do with the fact that I need to hold, so I have unial nerve damage if I'm not careful, not carpal. So I have to hold my wrists and the pinky finger side of my hand, this side of my hand, in a very specific way, and that's why I need a brace rather than compression. At least that's what I've discovered anyway. Megan wants to know if the poll that I recently ran, so it's still going if you want to go find it on my blog, but I did a poll which was basically like, hey everybody, here are a bunch of things that I could write. There's 16 different projects that I could be writing over the next couple of years. Which ones do you want? And Megan wants to know if that influenced me. So it didn't influence me in the immediate because I know what I'm writing next year. I'm writing The Enforcer Enigma, and I'm writing the third Delightfully Deadly novella. And I knew that going in, but this is the way it is with a writer. We're always, at least those of us who aren't super fast production-wise, we're usually planning a couple of years in advance. But I think it will influence what I'm writing after that. So maybe not next year or the year after, but well into the future. And it is also ammunition for me if I want to pitch any of those projects to a traditional publisher. So I can go to a traditional publisher and be like the Queensman project, which everybody really loved the idea of. I was like, look, if I would like to write this now, and I know that my fans are behind it. My readers are behind this project because they voted for it. Here's evidence of that. So that's part of the reason, is I wanted to see if you guys would get behind me for some of the projects that were maybe not directly Parasol Protectorate, for traditional reasons, traditional publishing reasons. I have been surprised with a couple of them. Like Geomage, for example, was just a sort of throwaway option. But a lot of people, like a bunch of people voted for it, but a lot of people commented about it. And I thought of that project as sort of very typically urban fantasy. And it's just really interesting that there are people out there who would like to see me write something like that. So some of the revelations from the poll are just like, hey, that's amazing. And that's one of the reasons I did it as a poll, because if I do it as a poll, it's less aggressive to you. You guys can just vote for what you're interested in, and you don't have to comment if you don't want to. And that just gives me sort of statistical insight. And you know I'm a statistician, so I like that kind of thing. Thanks, Frankie. Frankie shared it to the group, so we're good. Kristen wants to know who the next San Andreas book is about. So it's the Enforcer Enigma. So it's Judd's book, and Judd and Colin. So it's two of the pack members, and I've set them up a little bit. Obviously, you guys know there's some interest there. So yeah, it's their book. And then I had thought about stopping it then, but now I have another idea for a fourth book, so there'll probably be another book in the series as well. And I'll introduce the character that fourth book would be about in the third one. That's the plan. Anyway, I haven't written it yet, so I make no promises. But I do promise that the next book is about Judd and Colin. There are definitely sparkles in Defy or Defend. Ty has definite ideas on what I should be writing. Yvette wants to know if side characters are making cameos in Defy or Defend, and the answer is yes. But I'm not going to tell you who. Wah! There might be a few tips when I post the description of the book. So I'm just getting that book up and running, and you'll learn more about it as soon as it's kind of ready to go. You know me, I don't like to promise anything online until I'm sure I have like my ducks in a row and the dates are ready to go. It's like, I don't like to write a check I can't cash, basically. Sarah wants to know if we see more from Pillover. Pillover is a character that, yes, yeah, you are going to. I don't know how old your son is, but you will definitely see more eventually in the Delightfully Deadly series from Pillover. I love him too. He's great. My grumpy little darling. This is the Gail hums and scrolls through comments. Alexia, hello, new fan. Hey, welcome. Just wanted to say, admire my work. Oh, thanks. And that there's great depth to the characters. I really appreciate that. I love my characters, so I'm so glad that that you like them. And Alexia is delighted that she shares the name with Alexia, and I promise it was entirely intentional. I did it for you. Oh, you guys are so sweet when you say you'll read anything I write. Like, that was the big shocker with Cisgender, I have to say, as I was like, I am publishing the most oddball book ever. Let us see. And people seem to really enjoy that book. And it's gone on to do very strange things. Like, did you see I got to do an interview with Tristan Taormino? That was crazy. Like, I've known about her forever. She's just a legend in, like, feminist kink and sexual positivity. And like, the fact that I got to do an interview with her because of Fifth Gender was mind-blowing to me. Like, just amazing. It's on a podcast, so you can go check it out. But, oh my gosh. CQ says, do I have any more books geared towards 12 to 14-year-olds coming out? Not immediately, but as we just recently talked about, there's a book called Queensmen, which would be for younger age, which I'm thinking about writing, but your 12 to 14-year-old will be much older by the time that one would release, if I decide to write it. And it has to do with the fact that right now, and things change all the time in publishing, but right now, if I want to write young adults, it's a tough market to pitch to New York publishing houses. And they shot down a couple of ideas that I had. And so I have this other idea, Queensman, but I haven't really pitched it yet because I don't have my plate clear in order to write a whole new series right now. So, and the market's just really shaky right now, so I'm not even sure I want to pitch to YA. So my agent turned around and told me that I should write middle grade. But I'm even more uncomfortable with middle grade, although the market is supposed to be better right now. So I'm just shaky with that age bracket right now from a purely business perspective. So that's why, sadly, I don't have anything for younger readers at the moment. I would definitely like to write more again. It's just this moment in time doesn't seem to be ideal. Doc is suggesting future Lord Akeldama books. And I've said it before and I'll say it again that it's unlikely I will ever write a full book that stars Lord Akeldama, just because I can't imagine being in his head for that long. So Clay was saying that the interview was great, the one that I did with Tristan Taranvino that I was just talking about. And it is an unexpectedly positive crossing of interests. Thank you very much, Clay. I really did enjoy it. It's very unexpected. It's so funny, as a career author, like the places your career takes you. I've learned to be sort of more relaxed and to kind of go with it in a way that I admit I struggled with at the beginning of my career. But things like, oh, does a sex positive radio / podcast want to interview me? Sure, I'll do that. Why not? New mile marker. CQ is a librarian. That's why you were asking about the YA stuff. Yeah. I'm sorry. I have other plans and plots afoot, but at the moment, nothing concrete for YA. Doc says the YA novel burst. At least it did for traditionally published books. I'm not sure. CQ wants me to write middle grade. I have to say, I find middle grade terrifying as a write. It's really, really hard to write. I think it's one of the hardest genres to write because you have to write tight, clean, and sharp. You have to write focused, and it just seems like a nightmare to me. One of my best kind of writer friends who I've never met is Stephanie Burgess, who's the girl with the chocolate heart, or the dragon with the chocolate heart. And she writes mid-grade. The Cat Incorrigible books are also hers. And I can't say how much I respect her. It just seems like it's such a daunting prospect to me. So maybe if I get my strength together. The thing about mid-grade is there's no romance thread, or there's very, very, very rarely any kind of romance thread. And I love a romance thread, so... Scrolling through for other questions. Kristen wants a picture book with Lourdes style. Oh, that would be really fun. I have a middle grade out there. It's a short story. It's called Fairy Debt, and it is solidly middle grade. I mean, it could be a little YA, but it's pretty much middle grade. And I would like to do a version, like a printed version of that with illustrations in it. Kind of like The Ordinary Princess from MMK. But I've just never gotten around to it. It's sitting there. But you can read the book or the story. It's just a short story. It's up on all the digital places. So we have about 10 minutes left or so, 15 minutes left or so. Any additional questions? We've ranged back and forth on various things. Oofka. Or am I frozen and I'm just not seeing questions? Amber says, thanks for the update about the Hedgehog distribution. Just in case anybody didn't see it, Meet Cute, which is the Hedgehog incident, which is a short story talking about the first time that Alexia and Connell met. I just announced it to the chair up, and then I just announced it on the blog. It's available. It's going to be available in digital in February of 2020, right around Valentine's Day, a couple days after Valentine's Day. And it's going to be an audio, hopefully sooner than that. So we'll see. I'm doing an experiment where I'm releasing audio early, if I can. The vendors are being a little difficult about it. But if I can, I'll release it on audio a little bit earlier. And that's just as a sort of thank you to my audiobook readers who seem to get shafted all the time, because just the way production rolls for my independent books, audio readers are usually left waiting a couple of months while I get everything together and the recordings done and everything. So that's why I'm trying to put this one out earlier. So it's a sort of thank you to the audiobook listeners. Clay says that as a librarian, middle grade is really hard to match to readers. I can see that. I was so picky when I was that age. Thank you, Clay. If I ever do print Fairy Debt, I will let you know that it's available. Ty wants to know what my favorite Dungeons and Dragons class race is. Like what I identify with or what I would play. Dark Elf is what I kind of probably would play and what I identify with. But like I'm coming from a World of Warcraft background. Let's be clear, I've not played any. I was never into D&D. No stain if that's your thing, but it just was never mine. If I were to do D&D, I would like to be DM. I like to be in charge of the universe. Shocking, right? I'm an author. But I've never understood playing in other people's sandpits. So I would want to build the D&D from the ground up, and it would be my world too. So there. So I've never really gotten into D&D. I have taken the lawful neutral thing, right? And that's generally what I get is shocking. Lawful neutral. Or not lawful neutral. Neutral. All the neutrals is what I usually like. I'm in the middle square of the squares. But so far as like druid, paladin, thief, that kind of thing, I tend to go for trickster characters if I were going to play that kind of thing. So like a thief, dark elf kind of thing would be my guess. Something a little bit, just a touch sinister. Roy's apologizing for being late to tea. Don't worry about it. We're all friends and casual here. Brie wants to know what styles of swing do I like. Oh, what an interesting question. I haven't done any like competitive or any kind of like true swing in a while. So West Coast. So West Coast swing was what I originally changed. I love Lindy. And I used to do demonstration swings. I used to do swing with like, so my partner in college, my dance partner in college was a linebacker. So he played football. So he's a big dude and he could really toss me around. So I used to do aerials and like the whole 9 yards. So yeah, so West Coast is kind of my default, and it's what I like to dance at weddings and stuff like that. But Lindy is one of my true passions. I have to say, having done a lot of social dancing since then, and I really love salsa, a huge fan of salsa, but my true passionate love is the hustle. I know, but it is a frickin' fun dance. It is so much fun. So I really love the hustle. Good evening, everybody. Good day, everybody. New people tuning in, tuning out. Kimberly wants to know what the most out there project is that I want to do. God, that's a good question. I mean, there are some doozies on that list of the 16 possibles that I could do. I've talked about the fact that I always wanted to do a tied-in cookbook to the Parasolverse. I will probably have a nonfiction book coming out. That was a crazy out there project, but it's basically done now. That's the heroine's journey for writers, storytellers, and pop culture enthusiasts. Well, that's the tentative title at the moment. So nonfiction felt like a crazy idea to me to write, but I also felt like I had to write it. So yeah, I have some out there ideas. A coloring book I think would be really fun to do. A lot of these are things that I need other like contractors or artists or whatever to help me with, so they just haven't happened. I always wanted to do like an artist crafter tie-in book to the Parasolverse, so there would be like knitting patterns and recipes and like decorative things and craft ideas and like just a sort of hodgepodgey book. What other out there? Like, so the second Fifth Gender, so the next book in the Tinkered Stars series for the Fifth Gender follow-up book, that one is probably going to be even more outside of my comfort zone. It's going to be a bit more of a mystery. And then there are some baby projects that I just would love to write and just don't have the time to write. So I have little snippet short story ideas for specifically holiday stuff. So I've always wanted to write a like Christmas with Lord and Lady Macon and a teenage Prudence and Lord Akaldama, like sort of like what's that holiday like in that household, like this crazy mixed household of vampires and werewolves, and there's this like super sullen, bratty, metanatural teenager. Like, wouldn't that be hilarious? So I really want to write something like that. I'm dying to write the San Andreas shifters, like how would they handle Thanksgiving, for example? Or I dropped a nugget in the Omega objection where Alec, who's the alpha werewolf in the San Andreas, so his third form, which is basically Anubis form, he only ever uses it during Halloween to scare kids. And I just love the idea of the San Andreas shifters like running amok during Halloween and scaring everybody. And what do shifters think a costume is? Like, what are the Kitsune gonna get up to on Halloween? This just seems like a hilarious thing. So I have little snippets of stuff like that that I really, really want to write. So that's kind of the most out there stuff that I have right now. I'm sure there's other things that I've thought and then been scared by, but I don't always keep a list. Lots of discussions about D&Ds in the Parasolverse. Like they happen. There's some LARPing in the Parasolverse that goes on at various steampunk events all over the place, stuff like that. I just haven't run any myself. It just seems silly. I like, why not just write the story? Like that's what I'm inclined to just write the story. CQ wants to know if I ever did any pinup work. Nope. I was asked a couple of times, but yeah, no, I never have. I was asked to do a steampunk pinup at one point. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's awesome for people who do burlesque and pinup, but I'm not really like much of an exhibitionist, I guess. It's fine if you are. Please, it's awesome, but that's like just not really my thing. So I think I get enough like positive feedback and stuff from writing and from you. So I never bothered to do the pinup thing. Amber wants video evidence of the dance days. That would be VHS. I am an old fart. And I don't know if there's any out there. That is an excellent question. I've lost touch with the aforementioned dance partner. I'm sure there's like video from weddings and stuff, but I'll go see if I can find John Emilio, who's a friend of mine who's on the Functional Nerds podcast. He is also a swing dancer, and he has threatened if we were ever at a convention together that we will absolutely do some swing dancing. There is some video of me swing dancing at the SteamCon, a steampunk event in San Diego. Not this last time, but the time before. I think it's even on YouTube. So you can find it. It's out there. There's some discussion over film adaptations and animation and blah, blah, blah. There's been a little bit of murmuring out of Hollywood, but I don't really trust it. Bree wants to know if I enjoyed the heroine's journey process and how did it compare to fiction. It was a lot harder. The awesome thing about fiction is you have to make it all up. The downside about the way I write fiction is I've made a lot of it up, and now I have to make sure I'm not violating my own rules of my universe. So there's a lot of me stopping to check the rules that I've made up. But the thing about nonfiction is that it's other people's rules. So there are all sorts of requirements and restrictions and stuff, and there's a lot of me doing research, and it's just time consuming and hard. It's really hard to write. And I was really trying, and you guys will eventually let me know whether I succeeded or not, to make the nonfiction really fun to read, which is also hard. I wanted it to have like my voice and lightness and humor, and like I didn't want it to be like some nonfiction is like chewing gristle. It's just really hard to get nourishment out of it, and that's the dry. Some of it's meant to be that way, but I wrote the heroine's journey not that way. I wanted it to be something that like would be really enjoyable for people to read. So that was also hard. So I didn't make it easy on myself. Lauren, thank you. I'm glad you're excited about the heroine's journey. I am. It's at this juncture, it's just important for me to get it out there. I feel sort of just kind of compelled emotionally to get it out there. So we're gonna see if there's any interest from traditional publishing, and then I think I'm more likely to self-publish it at this juncture, but we'll see. We'll see what the lay of the land is. Right now, things are quiet in New York, so I should know January, February, what's going to happen with that book. And I'll let you guys know as soon as I know. Megan wants more in the Parasolverse. There's a lot of books in the Parasolverse. I'm doing my best. Yeah, there's 3 full series of 4 or 5 books each, and then there's half a dozen novellas and a couple of short stories. So there's more coming. So there's Me Cute, and then there's Defy or Defend, which comes out in the spring. So don't worry, there's always more in the Parasolverse. I seem to be unable to leave it alone. Doc wants a map book for the Parasol universe. Well, it looks just like Victorian England, and then the rest of the world in the 1890s. So I don't think a map is strictly necessary. You can get a Baedeker's, and that will show you. Yeah, map books. I mean, there's a couple of like, you mean like schematic maps, like I do have a schematic map of the Spotted Custard, which I guess now that series is done, I could probably scan and put up for you guys. I should look into that. More 5th gender, yay, yay. People like the crafting book idea. It's just a matter of getting everyone together to do something like that. You know, that's the thing about being your own boss, is I can either spend a bunch of my time being a project manager for something like a Parasolverse anthology, where I invite other authors to write in my universe, or a Parasolverse crafting book, where I invite a bunch of my crafter friends to contribute things like knitting patterns and stuff, or a, you know, like there are things I could, or a coloring book where I have to find an artist and, you know, get all the rights together and get contracts and stuff like that. Like, I can do that, or I can write another book. So, like, there's only one of me to go around. And, so that's why some of these other projects, while I'm excited about them, they have to go to the wayside, because frankly, what I would rather do is give you guys a new story, because I have so many stories that I want to tell. And so that has to take priority, and it does. And so other things kind of fall to the wayside. So I can talk big about all the things I really would love to do, but it is really just big talk. Ty is going bonkers over the holiday short stories. Yes, I would love to write some holiday short stories, but as previously said, it's just another thing that's like, yes, I'd love to write these things. I didn't put all of these short stories up on the options of things for you to pick to vote on with those projects, because short stories are not like full-length projects. And that is the downside of the short story, is I need to go through the process of getting it formatted and copy edited and getting cover art and stuff. And while formatting and copy editing is cheaper for a short story, formatting and cover art and all that stuff costs exactly the same. So, but I can't charge as much for a short story, obviously. So I don't make as much money on short stories. And so they're worth my while to write, because I like to write them. But they often don't earn enough to pay back for the expenses in producing them. The nitty-gritty of writing business, everybody. So, although what I could do is what other people have recommended, is write a bunch of them and eventually collect them as a book, get Subterranean to do a fancy edition or something like that. So I do want to do these things, but they have had to take back burner for books, for actual books. Yeah, Doc is saying Alexia fussing as the pack peas on the Christmas tree. Exactly. Can you imagine what Pack of Werewolves does with a Christmas tree? Or can you imagine Tesseract and a Christmas tree? Ah, fantastic. Oh, I do love reading Christmas books at this time of year. I'm pretty agnostic, so I don't celebrate anything really, but I sure do love reading holiday stuff. Megan would like me to come to Northern Carolina, where etiquette and espionage was in the Battle of the Books last year. Excellent! Thank you, Northern Carolina. I think I'm going to the Carolinas on writing retreat. Okay, I think I might be in the South, though. Sorry, I have a West Coaster's disclarity with most of the Eastern Seaboard. But yes, there's a blog post that I have that you can basically Google, which is like, why doesn't Gail visit me? Which explains how I decide where I go every year. One of the things that I have been doing, which has allowed me to give you guys, 3 books a year, basically, or 3 somethings every year, a book, a collection, a short story, a novella, whatever, is that I cut back on how much I'm traveling. Pretty drastically, actually. It exhausts me. I can't write while I'm traveling. I find it very hard to do anything other than the event that I'm doing. And so I really pulled back. I pulled back on the events that I do, and I upped how many retreats that I do because I'm so productive when I'm on a writing retreat. Claire wants to know if I've ever been to Whitby Goth in the UK. No, but I've heard of it, and I have friends who have gone, and I've seen pictures. So I know exactly what you're talking about, but no, I've not been. When I was living in the UK, I didn't travel around very much because I was at school there. So I haven't seen as much of the UK as I would have liked. Ty is organizing a Parasolverse game, it looks like. Frankie says I'm not an old fart. I'm totally an old fart. I'm getting curmudgeonly in my old age, guys. Katie says that they got positive reinforcement from mom on crossplay. Yay, Katie! That is awesome news. Congratulations. I love a suit. I have to say, it doesn't matter to me who's wearing it. I just like a suit. Piper wants the heroines dirty out there. I know, you and me both, babe. We want more maps and schematics. Yes, but see, then I have to find someone to draw them and blah, blah, blah. You guys, so much work you're giving me. I really just need another me. Would somebody please invent cloning? That would make this so much easier. More short stories for Xmas and everything. Yes, I honestly, it's really funny because people will talk about retirement and stuff like that, and I'm like, I have too much to write. I'm never going to retire. As long as my brain is still working, there will always be stories coming out of me because I have so many ideas of things I want to write. Amber is talking about authoring being entrepreneurial, and yeah, it totally is. I just accidentally pressed a button which lit up my face, so I don't know what I did, but there it is. Authoring is very much entrepreneurial, especially in this day and age. So yeah, when you hear me talk, when I do these lives and you hear me talk about the nitty gritty, now you see all of the ingredients that go into the mixing bowl that is the cake that you eventually get. Ty wants to know when I'm next on the East Coast. I am going to go to Worldcon in Washington, D.C., which is the year after next. This is 2021. I'm pretty darn sure. So any of you who can make it to Washington, D.C., I will be at Worldcon in Washington, D.C. So yes, that's in August of 2021. I know that's a ways away, but look, you have tons of time to plan. I love a Worldcon. We will hang out at the bar. It is a lot of fun. So that is my current plan to be when I'm next in D.C., which is the East Coast. I might be in Boston or New York or something before then. I don't know. I'm being very whimsical about where I'm traveling these days. Katie says that romancing the werewolf gets them into the Christmas spirit, and I am deeply pleased with that. It is, for those of you who don't know, Romancing the Werewolf is my holiday novella. It's the one I have written that is specifically for this time of year. It is also agnostic. It has holiday squash in it, and the possibility of child sacrifice, and I will say no more. Don't worry, of course, no children or squashes are injured in the course of the novella. Megan says thank you for everything that I do and for being a greedy fan. Aw, you're too sweet. And apparently Megan has a kitty twin with my Lilliput, who is not here. So far, Lilliput has not visited the office. I'm afraid of all the dangly things that she would destroy. But someday you guys will get to see me playing, like, training Lily. I promise. I'm gonna do it. It will happen. CQ wants to know if I have any guilty pleasure reads. Well, I've decided not to be guilty about it anymore. But I do love some gay romance, and for those of you who follow my book reviews, you notice this. The one that I just called out on my blog and on social media and everything was A Villain for Christmas, which is so funny. It is crass humor, so it's more in line with like the San Andreas books of mine. But it is basically a superhero and a supervillain who kind of accidentally fall in love with each other, and the superhero knows who he really is and has to like keep his identity secret from the superhero. Yeah, it's told from the supervillain's perspective. He's sort of an accidental supervillain. It's very funny. I have to say I really enjoyed that. So that will be my guilty pleasure read for right now. But I've decided not to really take. I'm just to like embrace the stuff that I enjoy reading, like even if perhaps it is looked at as slightly trashy by the rest of the world. Part of writing The Heroine's Journey was me being like, look, romance in particular is pillarized because of this like negative impression we have of the heroine's journey. And I had to write a whole book to talk about it, so I'm not going to get into it now because we're right at the end of the live. Katie says that they were a curmudgeon at 15, Ophelia. And I think Anala, what a pretty name. Forgive me if I mispronounced it, but I think this is going to be our last question, everybody. Anala wants to know what my favorite Christmas read was, and I said A Villain for Christmas is my recent discovery. I really like the Brambury Hedge books for kids books. There's a winter story where they build an ice castle and all the little mice, for those of you who don't know, they're beautiful children's picture books. All little mice have a ball in the ice castle, and it makes me so happy. So that is a favorite Christmas book of mine. I know it's like a weird pick, but if you Google Gail Carriger favorite holiday books, I have a whole blog post which has pics of not just adult reading books and romance books, but also kids books and YA books and stuff. So I have a little post all about it, and there's even there's a Jewish romance on there. Yeah, it's I really do enjoy reading holiday stuff, getting into the spirit. All right, my darlings, it has been fun. I'm so sorry if I missed your question. I always go back and reread the comments, and I will type an answer. So hopefully you'll get an alert for that. If you're on YouTube, I also read the comments, and I always type, come back and type answers. I'll put some links if they're necessary in the description of this video, and I very, very, very much look forward to talking to you again, and it will be in the new year, 2020. So yeah, be good to each other, be kind, stay strong, and I'll see you all in 2020.